Welcome to my series of movies in Photoshop. I don't know how many it's going to end up being, but this is going to be a series of movies which actually paints a human figure. In this case, a young lady. Not this young lady, because I'm going to be painting a different one for you, but this is one I had done for my book cover, my book series called Aquilin and the Circle of Stones, which you can actually check out on eBay or on Amazon. And if you type in Aquilin and the Circle of Stones, you will see the book. And I have actually, it's a series of books. But as I zoom into her, you can see, and I'll zoom into the hand portion too, you can see that Photoshop is a fun program which has a tremendous amount of sensitivity. That the sensitivity that is inherent in Photoshop, whether it's a hard product or a soft product, can generate a lot of artistic freedom. And that's really what I want you to understand, that the artistic freedom that is available in Photoshop to paint hair, to paint something as untechnically perfect as the human figure is wonderful, and can be stylized, can have free form, can have free painting techniques, and I hope through this series of movies that you understand that. But as anything, it always begins at the beginning, of course, and I'm going to go Command tilde and go to the actual file that I actually used to paint this part of the figure. Okay, because what I'd like to do is to just zoom in and just have you see different aspects of the hair, and how you block the hair, how you lay out gently the face, how you take and you give it the natural freedom, the natural look in painting that it needs to have. So this is what the young lady actually looked like. And what I did was I took my photo reference, which I shot here, and I turned it into that illustration, having my creative license to do what I wanted, because I obviously wanted to put her on a planet, and she is the heroine of my book. So through the different techniques here, I'll kind of zoom in and I'll show you the different techniques of how you grab and how you illustrate a nose, and how you turn selections like the nose selection, or the eyes, or the area of the eyes, or the top or bottom of the mouth, how you actually stop tone from going in certain places, how you work just like you would work on a hard product. So what I want to do is to show the techniques through this series of movies that really answer a lot of your questions on, well, how do you paint hair? How do you use a Wacom tablet? How do you use an electronic pen versus a mouse to cut or paint certain shapes in Photoshop? How do you get a pen tool to actually vignette out from a hard line to a soft line? And those are things that I actually want to show as we generate our way through this journey of painting the human figure. So I may refer to these at times or in future movies, but I'm going to close this and not save that file, and I'm going to go to Command tilde, and I'm going to close this and not save that file, and then I'm going to show you the human figure that we're going to paint today. And I wanted to first show you that I have a search parameters text file, and I want to grab what I actually searched for and show you that I actually searched for something that was labeled for reuse and was high resolution. So the very first thing I want you to do is to make sure that when you do search for something, that you have the rights to use it. So I'm going to hit Command V and paste that in, and I'm going to show you that as I search the images here, I want to designate and restrict my search patterns. So I'm going to go to Search Tools, and I'm going to go to the size of it in Search Tools, and I'm going to go larger than 4 megabytes, And now I'm going to go to the usage rights and I'm going to say labeled for reuse. Now she should come right up here in the first image, and that's the one I decided to use for you, so that we had an image. Watch how I click it and then I click view image, and now I know that I'm allowed to put this not only into the movie, but labeled for reuse means labeled for commercial reuse, which is very important to me that you understand that. Okay, so you can't just use an image. I'll go ahead and add another thing here. You need to understand that your portfolio can, CAN, can be filled with material that has copyright infringements on it, but you can never sell it or make any money from it. You can use it as a generated portfolio piece. I just wanted that to be known. But if you ever were to use a copyrighted image in an ad that is for another client, or if you were to make a painting out of it and sell the painting, you have now committed a crime. So you have to make sure that all the reference you use, if you intend to make profit on it, has permission. Okay, so the best way to do that is to take your own reference, which is what I did when I made my books, because they were going to be shown all over the world. So what I want to do is to begin the process on this. So I've created a face fill layer on here, and the very first thing I wanted you to see was that I created a remove the features part of this face. And I'm going to draw in front of you. I'm going to pause my Snaps Pro, not Snaps Pro, my I Show You Movie tutorial here at times, and I want to keep these movies between 25 minutes and 30 minutes on the different sections, so I don't know how many movies this is going to end up being. It's going to be enough to show you every stage of the game that you can fast forward through and do whatever you want. Now let's get into it. The way that you start, just like you start anything when you paint anything for me, is to begin with a foundation value. And what I should do is take the time to open up, if I have it here, I should take the time, which I have it, I just have to find it. I'm going to go backwards to a folder right here, and I'm going to go into that folder and see if I can find quickly. Let me go 9 through 16. I want to open up this painting that I had done here, and I want to make sure it's the right one, because the techniques that are used in a hard object, just like this, are the same techniques that you use in a soft object. How you use Gaussian blur, and if you look over here to the right, how you use layer masks, and how the layer masks actually soften edges. So if I were to show that edge on that hard line there, I've actually used a layer mask over here to soften the edges on that mask. And how I'm doing that is I'm Alt or Option clicking on the mask to show what the mask looked like over here. But let me get to what I was talking about here. I'm going to remove on this the text, the buttons, and go into the body. And I want to walk all the way down to the body of the value that I had done here. And let me see if I have it. Okay, I have to open the body. I'm sorry. So I'm going to turn off all the layers that have to do with the body, because I want to get down to the base value. And I want to talk to you as you watch all of this being removed. There is my base value. So if I've left one thing on, which is right there. The base value in the discussion of painting an iPhone would be the dark area. So what I want you to see, if I go to the Command tilde, is the base value is going to be a skin tone. But, and you don't have to do this, but I wanted you to see what I see when I look at the base value of a face. I'm going to turn on what I have called my remove layers. And my remove layers, I know that looks creepy, but that actually is what my face is going to look like before any features go on. So what I did was I created a remove the layers or the features folder. and I'm going to take it away and show you that this one is called the eyebrows, that this one is called the freckles, and this one is called the features. So I used the cloning techniques and painted on layers, just like I'm going to show you how to simulate that right now. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could pretty much get close to that eye if I wanted to. I could take a lasso and I could just quickly lasso around that face. I'm actually using a magnetic lasso, and I didn't want to use a magnetic lasso. So I'm going to Command D the selection, and I'm going to switch to the regular lasso. And I'm just going to give this a little area around here, and I'm going to come right around it like this, and I'm going to go to Shift F5, which is to go to Edit Fill. Let me put this window on the other window so you can see I'm filling with Content Aware. And now I've pretty much, I have to cancel that because I wasn't selected on the right layer. Okay, I have to make sure I'm selected on the right layer. So what I want to do is to grab the right layer of the image that I'm using here, which is going to be one of these layers. I have to actually put it on top. Actually, I'm going to click to this layer, and I want to show you first that I could click to the what I call the clicky copy. So the clicky copy is just, I need to turn all this off. The clicky copy is just a version that is my reference, but I keep it on top at all times. So now I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to turn off the bottom one, and I'm going to use that selection on Shift F5, and I'm going to hit Content Aware, and I'm going to remove that from there. Now, it didn't remove it perfectly, obviously. So what you have to do is use your paintbrush. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect the selection. I'm going to hit the paintbrush, and I'm going to make the paintbrush toggling my bracket keys with, if I right-hand click, a soft brush, not a hard brush. And I'm not going to paint, if you look up here at the flow, I'm only painting at 10 on the flow, and please keep your opacity at 100. Now what I want to do is I want to paint right on this layer for taking this off, because this is just a layer that I don't care about. All right, I'm only using it for reference. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the Alt or Option key, and I'm going to help where I'm painting these areas, and I'm going to use the same tone that's generally in these areas, and I'm going to cover up the stuff in the face that I want to cover up, because I really want to start learning, me being you, I want to start learning how to generate my bottom most important foundation layers. I couldn't say that any better than I am. Okay, I want the bottom foundation layers to actually be, let me do a good job here. I want the bottom foundation layers to be what they want to be, which is just concentrating on the face, not the features. So you continue to do that, and you can even take away all the freckles, but I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn her back on by going down to the bottom layer here, which is my original layer in here. And I'm going to show you that in there, I actually did already remove that part, which was my features, and I separated it into layers to make it easy to show you this step. Then I took away the freckles, and I took away the eyebrows. Now, that is how I want to look at painting the face. So I'm going to use that right there as my upper layer. Now, I want an extra clicky copy, not just the one that's here that I'm clicking on and off. I actually, and in a really kind of, I keep on saying creepy, but it kind of is creepy. I want to take all the layers that I have in the remove layers, watch how I do this, and I'm going to hold the Control or Command key and click on all of these things. I don't need that one. That was just an extra layer I put in there. And I'm going to make a copy merged layer of this. So I'm going to go Control Alt E or Command Option E, and I'm going to make a, which shows up on top, a merged layer. So it's called clicky merged because that's where it was above. All right, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put in here that this is the clicky, I'm going to remove that, and I'm putting in here clicky face base. So it could be the foundation base, it could be whatever I want it to be. Now, let's start painting the face, okay? But let's keep this on top. So, as I have that on top, I can show the one that's underneath. And if I turn that off, I'm going to make sure that the one that is here is off as well, because this is what I want. I want the one that's down here on the bottom to be my foundation, so I can see it. I'm putting it down there so I can see it. But I want the one on top to be able to have me click back and forth and see how I'm doing. Now let me make my point. I've already made a face path. I'll take the pen tool and I'm going to hold Command Option, or I'm just going to hold Command and click on the path. I've just made it very accurate around the face. So take your pen and draw around the face, but go up into the hair far enough that you're just up into the hair. Now, I'm going to turn it into a selection. I'm going to automatically feather by 1 or Gaussian blur by 1 in a few minutes. Okay, so maybe I'll just do that. But let me turn on my clicky copy here, hit the B key for brush. Let me hold the Option key and grab what I think is the middle face value. Is not the dark that you see here, and it's not the light that you see where her nose is eventually going to be, but it's going to be somewhere in a middle face value that I can alter back and forth. So I click on my face fill layer and I hit Option Delete. Now I close this and you can see how I have the value that I want, which is going to be the value that I think is the base value. Now maybe I made it too pink, so I'll come in and choose a little bit darker one, or a little bit one that's more with her upper lip. Okay, so maybe that is a better face value. So, you know, don't accept what you get at first. I'm simply going to go Option Delete now, and I think that that is a pretty good face value. Now, let me hit Command S to save, and I'm going to save it every time I do something, and after every 3 saves, especially on a file this big, I'm going to go to Edit, Purge All to purge all the history states. So, if I make mistakes on this, great, I'll fix them right in front of you, okay? So I think that's good as well. Now, using this as my engine, I'm going to make shapes, and then I'm going to keep on painting until the shapes that I get are going to be what I need, what I have. And it's going to take several layers. As you can see here, I have shading 1, shading 2, shading 3, shading 4, and I've made 2 extra layers in case I need those. Now, one of the techniques to paint is, and I'm going to do this kind of fast, is I'm going to hit Command D to deselect that. And now I want you to see this darkness that I'm actually highlighting here. I'm actually going to draw a very rough lasso, just like this, around that shape of that darkness right there. And I'm going to come around like this, and I'm going to come around like this, and I'm going to come outside the shape, and I'm going to come around like this. And I want that darkness with that color, so I kind of need my swatches palette. So I'm going to bring my swatches palette over to here, and I'm going to put it up where it won't be in the way, and I'm going to go down to smaller. I want to go to small thumbnail, tiny thumbnail, like this, because I need a lot of room. So I'm just going to keep on clicking when I actually make a good face color, and now I've got a darkness that I'm going to actually use right inside of here. So let me continue on. I just had an update from CC that I said no to. So now I hold the B key. I click the B key, I hold the Option key, and I grab that color right there. Now I click to shading 1. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to show you that if I hit Option Delete, I now have that shape. Now I don't care about having too far of that shape over here. Do not care. Okay, so I hit Command D to deselect. I now show that shape here, and I see that I want to actually have it Gaussian blurred. And then I'm going to add a layer mask, which I'm doing already. With no selection active, add your layer masks. And I'm going to now Gaussian blur that shape so that it has enough of the Gaussian blur that I can come back and tighten it up. So now you have to get good at understanding what Gaussian blur is. When my screen does that, it's just because I'm getting updates from CC, from Adobe. So what I want to do is to take a copy of this face and not have to turn on and off this all the time to see what I want to see. Over here in the corner, right down here, I want to put a copy of this face right there. So I'm going to hit the M key, and I'm going to grab a copy of this face right here, and I'm going to click on this and hit Command J, and it's instantly going to make that little picture right there that I have. Now I'm going to take the V key, and I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to shrink this because I want it smaller. I'm going to put it over here. And now I'm going to get it out of the way. I may even add a layer mask and cut off part of it because I don't want it to get in the way of my face, or I'll just keep on moving this around and I have what I need here. So I'm going to just kind of get rid of that part right there, okay? It is Adobe is really on me to put in a bug, but I'm going to kind of ignore it. So I'm going to hit that return key to accept that transformation. Now I can keep this off if you follow what I'm doing here. Now I want to click a little layer mask on that shape right there, and I want to take my B key and I want to paint at a higher, very quickly paint at a higher flow of maybe 50%, and I want to paint in black, so I hit the X key to toggle foreground and background, and I want to take that away so it doesn't get in the way of my face. So I'm just eliminating that part of the image. I don't like using the eraser tool. I think the eraser tool is a horrible tool because it's a destructive tool. Whoops. It's very destructive, meaning once you use an eraser, you're done. Okay, so I'm going to kind of soften this side of this just so I can see that face over here. A layer mask is non-destructive, and I want to get into the habit of making good choices. So let's start the process of what I'm talking about. So let me click back on the image. Let me deselect if I had a selection active. With me clicked on that image, let's go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and let's blur this to the most of it. So I'm going to say that all the time. I'm going to put this where where it doesn't get in the way of anything, and I'm going to come back down from 120. And do you see the feather, the blur, the amount of pixels that are now blurred around the top of the nose here? I'm pretty close to that right now. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. Now what I want to do is to use my capability that is in the paintbrush and paint at no more than 8 on the flow with black, and I want to soften areas that are on here. Now how do I know when I'm right? When I click this back and forth, I know I'm going to be right. So I like what I have over here, and now I'm going to soften this side. So let me hit Command Z because I wasn't clicking, I forgot. Mistake number 20 already. Let's click over to the layer mask. Let's paint black on the layer mask, and let's soften this side by just gently painting on the layer mask. Now let me click back and forth, which you're going to see me do 9 million times, and I'm going to make the brush larger by toggling this, and let's soften this. Now let's eliminate this as it goes outside the face because I don't want that tone to go outside the face. But now look at how I'm actually softening that area. I'll make it larger, and now this combined with about another 20 or 30 layers is going to get me to where I want. Now I'm actually going to paint above that. I may move this layer here that I'm actually moving. See it? I may move it higher. Okay, but I'm not going to yet. What I want to do is I want to start painting on the face, but every time I switch colors, I switch layers. Did you hear that? Every time I switch colors, I'm going to try to switch layers. So I'm going to click up to number 2. Now this is very cool. I want to paint with this layer on. Let me show you what I'm doing. And I'm going to keep on painting till I like what I get. And then I'm going to use the same technique that I used on this dark shape to get more refined shapes. So I'm going to, and you'll see it. So that's what you have to do. And use this adage, use this reality. It is not going to look good until it's at least 70% completed. So what I'm going to do is work it to that point, and I'm not going to judge it. So I'm going to make sure I click to different layers, and now let's zoom in and let's begin the process. Please ignore any of the little dots or any of the skin texture. In fact, if you have to, please squint. Okay, now that is a smaller shape. This light value that's right there, that is a smaller shape. I want to point to something. If you see this value where I'm eyedropping here, and you see this value where I'm eyedropping here, and now remove that light value that I'm clicking right there, that light value is a smaller shape. Smaller shapes go on higher layers, so I don't have to worry about that light tone. I'm not going to work around it. I'm going to work through it and then bring it back later. And that's what you have to know. So I'm going to take this tone right here. I'm going to take this tone right here, and I'm going to start painting with a brush at least this big, and I'm going to keep on moving. So with this tone, I'm actually painting on shading layer number 2. I made a mistake. I need to go back to the face selection and make a selection out of it, because I don't want my tone to get all messy on the outside. There's so many ways to stop the paint from going on the outside, and throughout this I will show it. I could actually take a copy of the fill layer and use it as a clipping mask to clip all of these layers to it. So I can use that. I should show that. I really should show that because I've already said it, so I should show it. I'm going to grab this dark value. I'm going to eliminate it in a minute, but I want you to see that when I paint this dark value, look at how I'm getting it all messy all over everywhere, including outside the face. Now, if I hold the Alt or Option keys and I clip this layer to that layer, and I clip this layer to that layer, did you see how the paint that was outside the face is no longer outside the face? Because I'm using this layer below as a clipping mask for that layer there. But I want to Command Z and then Option Command Z, or you go Control Z and Control Alt Z back through your history states. Okay, now I'm going to do it one more time because I don't want that black there. All right, so back to painting. Let's click, and now let's grab this tone, and I'm going to start painting. And I'm not really worried, as I said, I'm not really worried about painting that tone over this light value, because the light values are smaller. You have to think opposite of what your mind wants you to think. Now let me back off and let's just continue painting. So I'm actually putting that tone everywhere on the face that I see it. Okay, so I'm painting. I can't even see where the color's going. If I click this, you can see that I'm actually putting that tone on the face. So now I'm still painting in the same tone that's here in the foreground color, and I'm going to click and hit the return key so that color goes in here. I just want to start assembling a palette of colors. Okay, now I'm going to click to another layer, and I'm going to go around this color right here on the side of her cheek. So I'm now hitting the side of her cheek all the way down like this. There's no need to go to the front of the cheek. Okay, I see that tone also over here, but so I'm going to paint all over here. Your job is to use your paint like you would normally, like you had a paintbrush in your hand. Now let's click to another layer because I'm changing color. You see the tone change here that I'm actually clicking? Okay, now I'm going to actually start painting all the way down here across her mouth area, just like this. I'm trying to block in this face. Now I didn't change layers there because I'm hardly changing color. Now let's see what I have. I have the makings of that color on the face. Now I'm going to start clipping these so that I don't have to look at the messiness of the paint going outside the shape. You see what I'm doing? And I'm going to clip, and I'm actually going to make several more layers above here, and I'm going to clip those as well, and I probably will name those as I go. So now I'm going to click layer 6, and I'm going to start working the smaller shapes, but I'm not yet ready for the smaller shapes. So I'm going to start clicking here, and I'm going to start painting that tone right in here. Now I may need to move the shading number 2 layer higher, not the shading number 1 layer, the one that I actually used the Gaussian blur on. Okay, so now let me paint this. Remember, it's not going to look good until you're 75% completed. So let me go to layer 7. Now I'm going to start getting a little bit more refined on this layer. So and I'll name these. So now I'm going to come inside of here. Now you're wondering, well, Brian, why aren't you looking at what you're painting? And the answer is it almost doesn't matter. See how I'm starting to get the darkness where I want it? Okay, so I'm going to actually now go to this pink. Now watch how I gently paint. I'm only painting at 8% flow, so only a little bit is going on that face. Now let's go look at the face. See how I'm starting to get that pink where it needs to be? Okay, I'll actually refine this part right here by going, turning this off, turning this on, but making sure I'm clicked on layer number 7. So I'm going to now paint down here. Now let's come across here. Let me go to layer 9, and now let me go to a smaller brush, and let me grab that color again, which is right there, and let's now softly come inside of here. Not trying to get perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. What you're seeing is not perfect. Just wait until we actually get all the beautiful tones in here. Now let me grab this color and just refine it up the cheek. Okay, now let's see what we've got. Now we're starting to get this to work. I'm going very quickly back and forth. Let's now grab under the eyes and go to layer 10, which I should be naming. So now with a bigger brush, let's start getting this color in here, right here. And I'll come over here and I'll get this pink to come over here. Now let's look at what we've got. Okay, I'm starting to refine that whole area. Look at how nicely I'm actually refining this area. And now I'm starting, if you see your clicky copy very quickly, don't turn that one on, turn this one on. So now I'm actually seeing what I want to see. Now I can start getting more refined shapes. Now some of these I'm going to have to cut out with a path, okay? But I'm not seeing these smaller shapes yet. I don't need to. And that's what you're going to have to train yourself to do. So let me come over here. Let's now come across here. Let's come up here. Let me click to layer 11. Doesn't matter how many layers you use. What matters is that the layers are there for you to use. Hope you understood that. Now let's go do a couple more layers, which I may merge layers later. So now layer 12, let's start getting this blue or this tone to really come off the side of that face right here. Let's come across here. I'm going to hit that tone beautifully right there. Okay, a little bit smaller brush. Now let's see how it looks. Okay, I'm getting that beautifully. So now let's come in here like that. Okay, I'm doing good. And I'm happy with it. Now let's go to layer 13 and let's start getting this darkness that's around her eye. Now that may need a Gaussian blur. I'm going to start the process by painting that dark around her eye, and then, well, or around her eye area and where her eyebrows are going to go. Let's look and see what we've got. And now through a layer mask on that layer, I can soften what I've got. So now let's make it larger. Let me grab this color and still work on the same layer, but now let's continue on. Okay, let me grab this color and go smaller, and now let's paint this right through here and then around to here. Now we keep on toggling this on and off, and you can see that I'm starting now. I'm actually starting to believe that what I have is starting to feel right. Now I'm only to the 30% completion stage. I'd say 30 or 35 or 40. So keep on going with the layers. The more layers you use, the better it will be at this stage, and let me explain why. Because if you paint on one layer all of these tones and you get involved in too many things and too much streaking going on, you won't be able to fix it. I can just throw away a couple of top layers where the mistakes occurred. Do you understand that? So there is a really good solution for you understanding, or a visual impression of you understanding why I use all these layers. Now let's come in like this. Let's now get smaller brush. Let's just paint this right in like this. And remember, I haven't even used any fine-tuned tones yet. So now let's start laying in this tone for her nose, and let's see if this one that I painted down here moved up higher. just a minute. Let's get it up higher. Come on. Okay, up higher, and let's put it right here. And now let's see if that tone, look at how I'm going to turn it on and off, that tone is now totally working for that side of the nose. Okay, so I'm starting, really beautifully starting to get that face to work, and it's not totally taking so long. So I actually want to put this one down above layer 14, and I want to continue on layer 15. So on layer 15, let's now try to get this tone right down the center of her nose. So let's just come straight down. I'm painting at 8, so I can't really make a mistake. Do you understand that? Now, and I keep on saying that, don't be painting at 20 or 30 or 40%, okay? Look at how nicely I'm actually painting that tone right coming down here, and I'm only putting such little bit on that I can't really make an error. Now, let's put this tone on a new layer. Notice I said a new layer, and let's back off on that. I have too much light value going over to there, so let's get a little darker value. And let's gently paint it back. I'll even turn this off. I'll keep my eye looking down here. See this other one down here? And now let's come in here and let's just back off. Now I'm going to actually grab the pinky red, and let's come on top of that with that little beautiful pinky red. So let me grab this tone and come in with a smaller brush, and now let's look and see how good that is coming in. And now you can see how I'm laying in the foundation for that face, and you can see just how nicely I'm actually laying that in. So I think I'm going to pause it for a minute, and then I'm going to come right back if I remember the key to actually pause it. So I have to